Do you love small talk or do you hate it? Are you someone who has this urge to fill every gap in a conversation, or would you rather sit still in silence instead of talking about the weather or the latest moment in pop culture? Of course, a lot of this comes down to personal preferences, but your attitude towards small talk also depends on your culture. In French culture, for example, we don't really engage in small talk. At least not the way the Americans do. In today's lesson, you will learn some useful French vocabulary as we explore some of the unwritten rules around everyday French conversation, including what is considered normal or acceptable small talk versus accidentally engaging in conversational faux pas. French people love silence. Okay, I am generalizing here, but talking about culture, you have to generalize. So let's get these two things out of the way. First of all, of course, people have their own personalities. Maybe you hate small talk too, maybe you will meet a very chatty French person. And then stereotypes vary inside France itself. Parisians are said to be more reserved, while southern people are said to be more bavard, talkative. So with that in mind, what does the broader stereotype tell you about French small talk? Well, the other day I was in Galway Island with an American friend. In a pub, we met an American woman who started immediately to talk about personal stories with my friend. Things about her life, her family, that a French people would never dare to share before the fifth meeting with the same person. I am not judging here. I'm not saying it's oversharing or too much information. I am just using this example to show you how French people tend to view friendship and sharing as a more intimate experience. When a French person starts to talk about their family and their life, you know you've made a strong connection. Now, it could mean that instead of talking about intimate things, we'd rather talk about this and that for a longer time. But no. Instead, we simply don't engage in small talk or long conversations with strangers. Only with people with whom we know we are going to create a relationship. Otherwise, we'd rather keep to les amis proches, and deepen that bond. The flip side of this is that le silence, c'est du respect. Le silence, c'est du respect. Silent is respect. It is not an insult. Le silence, c'est du respect. If we know we're never going to see that person again, we would rather respect them and leave them in peace. In long queue, for instance, in an elevator, on a train, in public transportation and all that. People don't tend to try and strike conversation there. Finally, I have to admit that there is an arrogant side to this topic as well. French culture, for better or for worse, prides itself for having invented l'art de la conversation. L'art de la conversation in the 17th and 18th century with a flair for le trait d'esprit, or le bon mot, witticisms. It is an intellectual tradition that comes from les salons littéraires. This was the place where noble French women hosted conversations with the likes of Voltaire, or later with post-war philosophers in Parisian cafés. Or even now with basically all artsy French cinema.
C'est vrai?
C'est le jésuitisme incarné.
Laisse-le te défendre.
Non, je disais que je n'aimais pas Pascal parce que Pascal a une conception du christianisme très particulière, qui d'ailleurs a été condamnée par l'Église.
You will find a lot of fascinating French resources around this topic in my blog post for today's lesson. It's on my website, you will find a link to it below the video in the description, and it is all free. But what I mean mostly is that French conversation has a very special place in French culture. Just like, shared meals and complex love stories. It might be part of the reason why French culture isn't kind towards mere small talk. But again, it is all stereotypes and it is going to be wrong at the margins. If you want to make small talk with a French person, they're probably going to answer in kind. When meeting people at a party or a meeting or any kind of activity, they are probably going to make some small talk as well. And of course, les coiffeurs et les coiffeuses, hairdressers, are the famous king and queen of French small talk. But maybe it is not a coincidence that there is no short and easy way to translate the word small talk in French. Again, it's all stereotypes and it's probably false at the margin, so no need to send a comment saying, yeah, but I've got a French friend who does it. The expression small talk doesn't really translate into French. We have some options, however, such as parler de tout et de rien, to talk about everything and nothing, literally. Parler de tout et de rien. Parler de tout et de rien. As in, on a passé 2 heures à parler de tout et de rien. We spent 2 hours talking about this and that. On a passé 2 heures à parler de tout et de rien. Or similarly, parler de la pluie et du beau temps. Parler de la pluie et du beau temps. Or parler du temps qu'il fait. Parler du temps qu'il fait. Literally talking about the rain and the good weather and talking about the weather. More negatively around small talk, we also have échanger des banalités, trading trivialities, échanger des banalités, échanger des banalités. As in, j'ai revu Lionel hier soir, on a simplement échangé des banalités. J'ai revu Lionel hier soir, on a simplement échangé des banalités. I saw Lionel again yesterday evening. We simply made some small talk. Even worse, we have another negative expression around small talk, which is tenir la jambe. Tenir la jambe, literally holding the leg or talking your ear off. Tenir la jambe. For example, il m'a quand même tenu la jambe pendant 1 heure. Il m'a quand même tenu la jambe pendant 1 heure. He still talked my ear off for an hour. Il m'a quand même tenu la jambe pendant 1 heure. But most of the time, we don't have a specific word for small talk in French. We simply say faire la conversation, to make conversation, faire la conversation. For example, oh, je dis ça, c'est pour faire la conversation. Oh, I am only saying this to make conversation. Oh, je dis ça, c'est pour faire la conversation. But in case you really want to make conversation in French, where can you start? Sometimes we have to talk about something, and it is easier to talk about non-personal topics or topics that are not too important. So, what can you use then? Well, the easiest, most common French entire conversation is this one. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Hello, how are you? Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Bonjour, ça va bien, et vous? Hello, I am fine, and you? Bonjour, ça va bien, et vous? Très bien, bonne journée. Very well, have a good day. Très bien, bonne journée. Au revoir, goodbye. Au revoir, goodbye. And that's it. That's really good and that's perfect French small talk, very short for people you don't know very well. And that was the formal version, of course, for someone you don't know, as I said. But with a friend, you're going to use something rather like Salut, ça va? Hi, how are you? Salut, ça va? Ça va, et toi? I'm good, and you? Ça va, et toi? Super, à plus. Fantastic, see you. Super, à plus. And this is a whole small talk conversation for you. The gist of it is, of course, ça va, how are you? Ça va, ça va. With the same meaning, you can also use the informal ça roule, ça roule, ça roule. You also have other synonyms. I put them in the blog post for today's lesson. Now, if you have more time, you can go a bit further, of course. You can talk about the weather with oh là là, quel temps! Oh, what a weather! Oh là là, quel temps! It works all the time. Or maybe you can use on a évité la pluie. We avoided the rain. On a évité la pluie. Or il fait beau chez toi. Is the weather good where you live? If you're on the phone, for example. Il fait beau chez toi. Il fait beau chez toi. You can also ask other basic questions such as quoi de neuf? Quoi de neuf? What's up? What's new? It's simple and very effective. Quoi de neuf? As you might notice in everyday spoken French, we cut the E in le de. Quoi de neuf becomes quoi de neuf, quoi de neuf, quoi de neuf. It's a very good way to share if the other person has something important to share first. If you want to get to know a stranger in a party, for example, you can ask comment tu t'appelles? What's your name? Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Or even more informally, c'est quoi ton nom? C'est quoi ton nom? C'est quoi ton nom? Or even, tu fais quoi dans la vie? What do you do for a living? Tu fais quoi dans la vie? Tu fais quoi dans la vie? A simple compliment can help too. For example, sympa tes chaussures. Cool shoes. Sympa tes chaussures. Sympa tes chaussures. Finally, random questions can help too, depending on the context, of course. Maybe you would like to ask, les enfants vont bien? Are your kids all right? Les enfants vont bien? Les enfants vont bien? You can also ask, tu as fait quoi ce week-end? What did you do this weekend? Tu as fait quoi ce week-end? Tu as fait quoi ce week-end? Or even, tu as passé une bonne journée? Did you have a good day? Tu as passé une bonne journée? Tu as passé une bonne journée? And I hope you had a good day today. You can use it to learn more French and cultural differences with my lesson on what to never say in French. Click right here on your screen and I will see you in the next video. Allez, à tout de suite!